Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Ray Hutchins and Mitch Tanenbaum of Cybersecurity LLC, a full-service cybersecurity company in Denver, Colorado. And our presentation today is going to be talking to you about having a virtual chief information security officer. We'll refer to it as vCISO during the meeting today. So it's been first, before we get into the discussion, Mitch and I have been in business together for about 4 years. We were in the cybersecurity business prior to that. My background is I had various companies that I owned, and I was responsible for the security for those companies. And I had a digital marketing company that was under attack and had to get into security to learn how to defend myself from attack. And so that was my route into this world. Mitch had a completely different route into it, and I'll let Mitch describe that to you.
So I started into security. I was building real-time and command and control software for a defense contractor, Texas Instruments, and at that time, the government, who was our primary customer for that division of TI, was very sensitive about the cybersecurity of the systems that we were building, and so I got dragged into ensuring the security of federal classified and unclassified information systems that we were building as part of our contractual requirements. And from there, I moved into financial services. And as Willie Sutton said, they get robbed because that's where the money is. So everybody there has a huge interest in cybersecurity.
So one of the things that we've learned, one of the most valuable services that we provide to our clients, a service that is very, very well received, is that our company serves as virtual chief information security officer, vCISO, for these companies. We found that these companies don't need, nor can they afford, a full-time vCISO. But they absolutely 100% need a vCISO to serve in that capacity 3 hours a month, 5 hours a month, 10 hours a month, depending on what's going on with them. They absolutely need that assistance. And so, and the way we operate this and the way most virtual CISOs operate, it's not a threat to the IT department. It's in support of the IT department. And the IT department, by and large, does not have these security skill sets and needs this help. So we work with them and with management to build the security program and to perform the various strategic initiatives related to cybersecurity. But Mitch acts in this capacity for our company with these other companies because of his capabilities and his background and his credentials. So I'll let Mitch explain to you what he does as virtual CISO and what role he plays.
So really, first of all, there's no distinction between a chief information security officer and a virtual chief information security officer, other than a vCISO is a contract relationship as opposed to an employee, and you pay less for it. So in terms of the functionality, those two do the same thing. Now, we've seen a lot of people call CISOs in organizations who, in my opinion, would not be a CISO. So let's start there. The CISO is not the person who is going off and making sure that your firewall is configured right. Is not the person who's making sure that your servers are configured right. Is not the person who is making sure that your workstations are configured right. Those are operational IT requirements, and that's something that the IT department should be doing. It's part of the reason why we say that there's really not much conflict between IT and what we do, because we're not doing what they do. So what if that's what a CISO is not, what is a CISO then? So a CISO is the person who is working with executive management, and we work with at a number of different levels. We work with the chief financial officer, the chief executive officer, in many cases the board of directors, as well as whoever's in charge of IT, whether that's the CIO, the VP of IT, the director of IT. And we act as a bridge between those two organizations so that we add some support for justifying why it is the organization needs to spend money when they do on particular security measures. When the executives have questions about, what is the implication? Like, for example, we just did a webinar. We've done several webinars actually on the new California Consumer Privacy Act. And executives don't understand what that is. What does that mean to us? How does that impact our business? Then we work with both the executives and IT to understand how that impacts a particular business. Let's say a business is in the healthcare business and they handle protected health information, PHI, as it's defined under the Health Insurance Protection and Portability Act, HIPAA. Then we go off and assist companies in understanding what their obligations are under that regulation. If they are a financial services organization, we can help them understand what their requirements are under federal laws such as Gramm-Leach-Bliley. And for companies doing business in every single state in the union that handle personally identifiable information, a definition which continues to expand on an annual basis in each and every state. We help people understand what their responsibilities are for protecting that information. And then we help them figure out what is the best, most cost-effective way to go off and implement that. But we don't implement that. I mean, we will implement that if someone wants, but that's not something that we do as part of our, so that would not be, specifically, that would not be included in our CISO arrangement. That would be a separate engagement if someone wants us to go do that. What we're helping people with is strategy and risk assessment and incident response. And many times, most organizations don't have a full-fledged incident response team. They don't have the expertise. They don't have the resources. So we help them respond to an incident. You know, you hope you never have an incident, but if you're listening to the news, you know that's probably not reality. You know, 25% of all companies in the United States had some sort of cyber incident last year. So if you have one of those, you know, how do you respond to it? You know, do you hide in it? We've seen this before. Do you hide in the closet and hope it blows over? Well, let me tell you, practically that doesn't work so good. You know, people have tried that. It does not work so good. So Equifax tried that for 3 months. The part of the problem is that many times you get outed by third parties who are privy to it, and then you're really scrambling because you haven't planned for it. So those are the kinds of things that we do as a vCISO, or that you would do if you engaged a full-time CISO. Part of the problem you have with engaging a full-time CISO, besides the fact that it's expensive and hard to find people who are really qualified, and even harder to retain such a person, in most organizations that person would be a department of one. Now, who do you think wants to be a member of a department of one? It's certainly not the most competent people. That's not of interest to them. They're going to want a team, you know, typical CISO, not unusual in a you know, big company, say a Fortune 1000, a Fortune 2000 company. A big CISO, you know, organization might have 5, 10, 15 people under them. Well, you're not going to justify that. It's not going to happen. It's not in the budget. It's not needed. So how do you even keep such a person? Assuming you could find one, assuming you could afford one, how would you validate that that person is really competent? And by the way, if you are large enough to justify your very own CISO, we help organizations vet those people. But then how do you keep that person? Because a department of one is really hard to retain.
Something that's very important in the conversation about how we work with our CISO program is the way we charge for it. We typically charge for it in blocks of 10 hours paid up front, but those hours never expire. Some of our clients might use 2-3 hours a month. Other clients might have a bigger project, need more help, might use 10 hours. We've had some clients, I guess, up to 30 hours in a month. But everybody's different, but there's no penalty for not using the time, but you've always got that CISO. And another thing, according to various regulations, you need to have a CISO on staff at some level or another. And having a virtual CISO works just fine. You've got access to an experienced cybersecurity professional that is there to support the program at all times. So if you have an incident, you've got a incident or breach, you've got some calls you have to make right away. One's to your insurance company, one's to your cybersecurity lawyer, and the other one's to your CISO or your cybersecurity company, and this is your CISO if you've got one. And so, but having that person on staff makes all the difference in the world in terms of the outcome of how that incident is going to be handled.
Many times customers want to know who's the person in your organization that's responsible for security. And you should have somebody, you want to have an executive, but we always make this distinction. The executive who is accountable for the cybersecurity program in the organization does not need to be a technical expert in cybersecurity. They need to do two things. One, they need to have the ear of the CEO and the board. That's critical. And number two, they need to be able to evangelize to the team about why it is things need to change. And that's always the biggest challenge. People don't like change, even if change is simple. But for example, let's say a lot of our organizations are implementing two-factor authentication right now because passwords are getting hacked right and left. And people are going to say, well, why do I need to go do that? I don't want to do that. And, I'll be the first to admit, I say this on a regular basis. I use two-factor authentication all over the place. It's a bit of a pain. Now, a bit of a pain is a relative term. Maybe it takes me an extra 15 or 30 seconds to log into a system. But, which is better? To take an extra 15 or 30 seconds to log into a system, or to have a breach which may impact the viability and survivability of the company? Which one's more important?
Mitch and I own this company, and we're equal partners in this company. So when you hire Mitch, you also hire me. So for the same price of Mitch, you're getting my experience as well. And we also have a team of experts. We have forensics people, we got penetration testing people, we have other experts that if a situation comes up and we need that help, that comes together, and you're getting all that help right for the price of one person, Mitch. So when you're hiring a vCISO, in our case, you're getting a vCISO team. I believe that covers the subject matter. Mitch, any final comments?
I think that pretty well covers it. If you're interested, if you think that's something that's important to you and something that you'd benefit from, reach out to us, cybersecurity.com, and we will be happy to discuss the subject with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for attending today.